Settle in, take a deep breath, and let the outside world just kind of fade away for a second. Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're going to explore a story that's literally hidden deep within your own DNA. It's the wild, almost unbelievable story of an ancient bottleneck that, well, nearly erased us completely.
You are the survivor of an extinction event you were never meant to remember. Think about that for a second. We're not talking about a world war here. It wasn't a modern plague, and there was no giant asteroid smashing into the Earth. No, this was a silent collapse. A collapse so incredibly severe that our entire species was knocked down to a number smaller than your average rural high school. Literally every human being alive right now traces their existence back to this one fragile, terrified little remnant population. Humanity surviving? It wasn't destiny. Honestly, it was an absolute fluke.
Section 1. An improbable survival story.
So to really grasp how close we came to the edge, we have to travel back a long way, nearly 1 million years. We need to completely reframe our history. It's not a story of guaranteed conquest. It's a story of ridiculous biological luck. Imagine you're standing out on the African savanna roughly 1 million years ago. Our ancestors, they weren't alone out there. There were actually multiple human species just walking the Earth. You had Homo erectus, Homo heidelbergensis, and a bunch of other archaic relatives whose names are mostly just buried in stone now. Evolution was basically running this massive, tangled experiment of competing branches. And our lineage, the one that eventually led to us, Homo sapiens, was just one struggling little group among many. And the reality is, most of those branches just ended in extinction.
Section 2. The Great Ancient Collapse. Suddenly, the very environment that sustained these early humans just turned on them. A catastrophic era kicked off, and it fundamentally altered the trajectory of life on Earth forever. Between roughly 930,000 and 813,000 years ago, our early human populations went through this absolutely brutal collapse. Climate instability ramped way up. Glacial cycles were shifting violently. Across Africa, ecosystems completely transformed as rainfall just destabilized. Forests shrank, deserts expanded, and the food chains totally broke down. The world was literally failing our ancestors. For over 100,000 grueling years, let that sink in, 100,000 years, humanity was trapped in a nightmare scenario where surviving another day was the exception, not the rule.
And recent genetic studies have shown us that during the absolute darkest depths of this bottleneck, the effective breeding population of our ancestors collapsed to roughly this number: 1,280. Not 1,280 tribes, not 1,280 cities, literally 1,280 individual breeding humans left on the entire planet. Just pause for a second and imagine how incredibly quiet the world must have been.
To really put that terrifying reality into perspective for you, a single modern Boeing 747 can carry nearly 500 passengers. That means the entire genetic future of all 8 billion people alive today could have comfortably grabbed a window or aisle seat inside just 3 airplanes, 3 flights. That was it. That was the entirety of the human resistance against total extinction.
Section 3. Species-level roulette.
Now, when a population drops that dramatically, the entire rulebook for survival gets thrown out the window. It's no longer just a population decline. We are talking about species-level roulette, where you're hovering every single day on the razor's edge of being permanently erased. At just over 1,000 individuals, inbreeding severely weakens the genetic code. Disease vulnerability absolutely skyrockets because the genetic defense systems are basically running on empty. Resource scarcity and predator pressure mean literally every single day is a lethal struggle. But honestly, the most terrifying part? The threat of random environmental shocks. A single prolonged drought, just one volcanic winter, or even a localized disease outbreak during this fragile period would have deleted Homo sapiens for good. History, agriculture, modern civilization, none of it would have ever happened.
And this right here is the very definition of a genetic bottleneck. It's a massive population reduction that squeezes a species through a tiny, restrictive passage, leaving the survivors with unusually low genetic diversity. In a very real, tangible sense, every person alive today, across all continents, is incredibly genetically similar to one another. And why? Precisely because we all descend from this tiny, deeply traumatized remnant population that somehow survived a near-deletion event.
Section 4. Evolution's eliminated alternatives.
While our specific ancestors somehow scraped through, the world actually used to be full of human alternatives. Looking at the fossil record is basically looking at a graveyard of human lineages. Neanderthals, extinct. Denisovans, extinct.
Homo floresiensis, Homo naledi, all extinct. You see, evolution didn't hand us a golden ticket. It didn't guarantee our victory at all. Evolution just mercilessly eliminated the alternatives until only one branch was left standing, us. We survived the bottleneck, sure, but our closest relatives eventually succumbed to a changing world.
Section 5. The Weapon of Cooperation.
So how in the world did those 1,280 people actually pull it off? What dragged us back from the brink when so many others just faded into the dirt? Well, what saved us wasn't pure physical strength, or being super fast, or having sharp claws. Humans evolved something extraordinarily rare and honestly way more powerful: deep cooperation. Complex communication allowed us to warn each other, plan, and strategize. Social bonding meant we actually protected each other when we were weak or sick. Shared knowledge ensured that technological memory, like how to make fire or craft a spear, was passed down instead of being lost forever. And collective child-rearing meant the next generation survived even if their biological parents didn't. When the environment collapsed all around them, isolated strength completely failed. But shared intelligence and deep cooperation, that endured.
It is absolutely wild to try and comprehend this leap. Just picture those terrified ancestors huddling around tiny campfires in a fractured, failing landscape, and then realize that from those fragile survivors came agriculture, philosophy, science, industry. Literally every skyscraper, every satellite, every language, and every piece of artificial intelligence exists today solely because a few thousand humans refused to just die in the dark. We went from being the absolute prey of our environment to achieving complete ecological dominance, literally reshaping the climate and the rivers of the Earth itself.
Section 6. A Fragile Evolutionary Warning. But here's the catch. That modern dominance creates a really dangerous illusion for us. It kind of tricks us into believing our survival was always guaranteed, and worse, that our permanence is completely assured. But this ancient bottleneck isn't just some dusty piece of history. It is a massive, haunting warning. Just look at the echoes of the past around us right now: climate instability, resource collapse, the emergence of new diseases, environmental overshoot. The exact same conditions that brought our ancestors to the absolute brink of erasure a million years ago, they are entirely capable of returning today. Our entire civilization rests on a foundation of fragile biological luck, and intelligence alone doesn't secure our permanence.
So I want to leave you with this final thought to chew on. You are not simply human. You are the literal, living continuation of one of evolution's rarest recoveries. Your life, your consciousness, your very existence watching this right now, it's not merely a guaranteed inheritance. It is survival against extraordinary, basically incalculable odds. Knowing exactly how close we came to never existing at all, what are we going to do with the next chapter? Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer. Sleep well, and seriously, never forget the improbable miracle of simply being here.
If you enjoyed this journey through deep time, like, share, and subscribe, and join us